Okay, so it's 7:30. I'm Janet Anderson. I call to order the Town of Lewisboro Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, September 21st, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. After a couple in-person meetings, we're back to meeting remotely because in an emergency session, the state legislature passed a temporary amendment to the open meeting law that will allow municipal boards to meet via conference until January 15th, 2022.
Still not coming. Oh, wait, speaker.
Yes, we're going to have to mute some people. The board agreed to meet via Zoom at this time. We are live streaming to YouTube on the Lewisboro TV channel to enable viewing by the public. And no one is in our in-person meeting location at 79 Boughton. This meeting is being recorded and we have confirmed that the YouTube feed is active and working. Members of the public can always express their views by mail or email to planning@lewisborogov.com. Kirsten Conrad, our planning board administrator, has confirmed that the meeting has been duly noticed and legal notice requirements are fulfilled. Joining me on the Zoom conference from the town of Lewisboro are members of the planning board, Charlene Indelicato, Jerome Kerner, Greg LaSorsa. Maureen McGuire is absent tonight, but we do have a quorum and thus we can conduct the business of the board and vote on any matters that come before the board. If not on yet, I expect our planning and wetland consultant Jan Johannesson to join us, but we do have counsel Justin Siebert on right now. The planning board administrator Kirsten Conrad is on, as well as the CAC chair John Wolf. In accordance with the law, we intend to post a recording and transcript of this meeting to the town website, and the Zoom video will also be available on the town's YouTube channel. We do not have a public hearing scheduled for tonight. Therefore, we do not expect to take any public comments at this meeting. We ask any applicants that are not currently engaging in dialogue to mute their lines. This helps everyone hear over inevitable background noises. And as we go through this, to ease the recording of our votes, I will poll board members individually. Okay, so let's get started. And I'm looking, we do not have Jan on quite yet. Okay, the first item on our agenda is a waiver of site development plan procedure, calendar number 07-21 PB. This is for the Cross River Pharmacy, 890 Route 35, Cross River, New York. This is an application for a change of use. And I believe, is it, who's on for the applicant? Is it Lewis? Oh, okay, Marco, I see you. And you're muted, so.
And we're here too, so.
Okay, good.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Marco Manager representing Cross River Pharmacy at 890 New York 35. The applicant is proposing a change of use for a new pharmacy. There is no increase in parking. There is adequate parking for this particular site. The space is roughly 1,970 square feet. The proposed space will be, excuse me, a pharmacy with two medical labs in the back, excuse me, two chemical labs in the back, compounding labs, one small office, and one existing ADA accessible bathroom. The two new labs will require some sinks, so there will be a small increase in water usage for the site. But other than that, the space is pretty much open for products. The signage outside, we're going to have the same aesthetic as the rest of the storefronts, and everything else outside should be remaining the same. We have the business owners here, Elaine and Stuart, who can talk a little bit more about the business and the operations for the compounding labs and the store.
Okay, I'm not sure that we really need much on that unless you have something you want to say.
No, not really. It's just, we just want to move in the store, basically.
I did see we got some slightly revised plans that had the vestibule go away, but basically it was very similar to things that I think we had seen before, and we have recently seen something very similar. Another change of expansion of Cameron's. I think the things that we need to do, one of them, a referral to Westchester County Planning, Kirsten has already taken care of, but we do need as a board to agree to refer this to Westchester County Department of Health, which apparently looks at every change of use. It's not just that you're putting in a couple of sinks. And we also would want to refer this to the building inspector. So I guess I'm going to look, this we can do by consensus.
Correct.
So I'm going to look for people to nod or give me fingers up or something to say
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So with that, Kirsten, we want to both refer this to the building inspector and to the Westchester County Department of Health. And thank you for already getting it down to planning. I see Jan is on. I don't know, perhaps I'll ask him if there is anything else that we need to address on this, or if he had a memo that was fairly short. And I see both Keller Sessions and Jan on, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Jan's having some connection issues.
Okay. Then.
But I mean, Jan, I would just say, the review memo from Jan is, pretty modest in terms of the comments. They're all pretty pro forma. This is a change of use application in a center that we've had experience with, and perhaps we just want to look forward to the October meeting and have some direction for Jan to prepare a resolution.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I guess the only other question I'd ask the applicant is whether or not there would be, I know they talked about signage over the building. I know there's a sign out front as well, and I assume that they would get listed on that. And I don't know whether that, at what point something has to go to ACARC, but we happen to have an ACARC expert with us, Kirsten.
Is it conforming with the rest of the building standards, both the street sign and the fascia sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
Building permit for the sign would be required, and it's at the building department's discretion whether they refer it to ACARC.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I am, go ahead, Jerome. I see your hand up.
Well, if the zoning in regard to parking has been reviewed and approved, would it be appropriate to make a motion to waive for a waiver of site plan development procedure and authorization for preparation of a resolution at this point?
Yeah, Jerome, typically we handle the waiver in a resolution that is prepared by by Jan's office. So
Okay,
if you want to authorize that for October, just by, again, a show of
consensus.
Yeah, show of consensus. We can set out to do that.
All right, so I'd like to look for consensus to ask Jan to prepare a resolution on this matter for October.
Yes.
Okay, and yep, I see thumbs up from the 4 members of the board. So, so thank you very much. Okay, so that, I think that's all we need to do for this. And so we can move on to the next matter. And I am recused from this, so I'll turn off my video, which I guess is about all I can do to leave the room, and ask Jerome to handle this.
Okay, so I will chair this item, which is calendar 0812 PB, Petroselli, request for 90-day extension of time to resolution granting preliminary final subdivision plat negative declaration under SECRA dated October 21st, 2014. So, Michael Sirignani, you're here for that.
Yes, good evening. First, there's a money matter. I understand that there's the escrow is balance is zero, and we owe some money for services that by your consultant who that have already been rendered and not paid. So I want to report that my client is mailing a check into Kirsten. So that should be taken care of.
Well, Michael, I'm going to interrupt you here, but that was what we were told at the last meeting, and I know it's probably not it's out of your hands, but I think as a matter of policy, we're not going to proceed with any discussion on this matter until that money is paid.
All right. Well,
So I'd like to suggest we adjourn this meeting, and unless any board members have any different feeling on that. Do I hear any negative? Greg, Charlene?
Nope.
So with that consensus, we'll adjourn that matter, Michael, until it's resolved.
okay. We'll see you next month on this.
Thank you very much. And concluding that, I'll turn it back to Janet.
Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is a wetland permit review. This is calendar number 29-21 WP, number 03-20 WV, the Schilke Residence, 3 Beaver Pond, South Salem, New York, and it's an application for remediation of wetlands. This is on as a control date. I don't know if anyone is on for this matter. Seeing and hearing no one jumping forward on this. I think what we should do is put it back to the next to our October meeting, again as a control date, and
I will contact the applicant and advise them of the October date.
thank you, Jed. That would be very helpful. Any other comments on this before we move on? Seeing and hearing nothing, we'll move to calendar number 61-20 WP, calendar number 14-20 SW. This is the Adler Greenwald residence at 12 East Ridge Road, Wacabuck, New York. It's the application for an installation of a pool and the reconstruction of a bridge. And again, this is a
I'm here.
Oh, good. First time applicant.
So-
Good.
Hi, my name is Karen Adler. My husband is Larry Greenwald. You might notice that I am in a hospital room because my husband is in the hospital, which is related to how important this is to us. I do have a long statement I'm going to read. We bought our home in February of 2020. We love living in Wacabuck. It has made a dramatic difference in my husband's quality of life under very challenging circumstances of blindness and physical limitations. We purchased this house with the belief that on 4+ acres, we could put a pool. We even had 2 pool companies come as part of our pre-purchase due diligence to assure us that we would be able to do this. We purchased the house because we knew we had to live in a single level home with easy access to the outdoor patio and anticipating a pool where my husband could exercise. The application preparation for the pool and repair of the bridge began in early June. I made several inquiries at the building department asking about additional questions from what was initially asked in the application, including whether we needed to suggest a different location on our property, because I was so concerned about the wetlands issue. It took 2 months for someone to tell us that we would have to go to the planning board. Our application to the planning board was submitted in early August. And again, I asked the same questions about the submission and additional information needed, and whether perhaps I should submit along with it an alternative plan. Until yesterday, when I called Kirsten, who was just wonderfully helpful, I did not even know that there were 18 new questions and requests for extensive additional information. Our wetlands environmental consultant advisor and our advisor on the plan itself have all begun work on answering these requests, but it was not possible for them to get them completed for this evening's meeting. With regard to the bridge repair, I would like to point out something that I think is really demonstrative of our commitment to the environment and sensitivity to the wetlands issue. The existing bridge footings are in the stream. This is a bridge that was put up by the previous owners, and I believe had approval for some improvements. Our proposed improvement will have that span no longer in the stream. Clearly something we recognize would help the environment and the buffer zone. A pool is essential to my blind and partially disabled husband to enable him to exercise and maintain some level of physical activity for his mobility and health. We have been longtime supporters of environmental causes and are well aware of the importance of protecting the wetlands and maintaining a healthy wetlands buffer. Unfortunately, our entire 4+ acres are in the buffer. I have asked and would be amenable to an alternative location somewhere else on our property, but that would still be in the buffer. We have a very large grass lawn that was put in long before we purchased the house, that of course is in and of itself a disturbance to the buffer. I would be more than willing to return a portion of that to provide more wetlands protection in exchange for being allowed to have the pool and patio, and will work with my consultant to present this as part of our resubmission. We have already added a drain to a dry well to address the question and concern about any escape of overflow from pool going into the wetlands. Because I did not receive the detailed comments until yesterday morning, I again want to apologize that we are unable to provide you with the answers to all of your questions and support of them in the requested plans. However, my consultants have all started work on this and assured me that if you would agree to put in us on the docket for October 19th, we would have everything you requested within 10 days, that is by October 1st. I know that this is a big ask outside your window of submission, but if you would make this exception, it would enable us, should you hopefully approve our request, to know that we could start work on the pool before the winter freeze. Thank you for your kind and thoughtful consideration of my request.
Okay, thank you. I think, so I know that, Ms. Adler, I know that this is new to you, but we certainly did not, this is sort of the normal cadence where we have initial review. We have the consultant talk about the memo in case there are any things that are not clear to you and to us. We have the board will typically ask some questions or look at the things, and we would ask that you come back on for the next month if you can get the items in. I believe our submission date for resubmission is September 28th, and you asked for October 1st. And I would look to Jan to see whether,
I am so sorry. My connection went down just as you were about to ask me something.
okay. I think our typical resubmission date would be September 28th, and you've asked for a couple more days. I would ask Jan if that's who's the primary person who has to do the review, whether that would be
Uniform?
No.
Under the circumstances,
Eric, it went away again.
We've got to mute somebody. Hang on.
Okay, it's came back. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Jan.
Janet, under the circumstances, I would have no problem with that.
Thank you.
So Janet,
Yes, Jerome.
again, Jan, under these circumstances, and the fact that this is a clearly a
Can you make it louder?
clearly a how should we say, a pool that serves many functions, including the most important one being therapy. That we, and also the fact that any place on the site is going to present the same condition, that is, the pool will be in the buffer. I'm going to recommend that we go administrative on this and streamline this process and allow Jan to review any of the comment responses and use his judgment. I wonder what the rest of the board feels about that.
I just have a couple of questions that I think would help me make that decision. One is, it doesn't say, but is this planned to be a chlorine pool or a saltwater pool?
We had said saltwater, but if you tell me you prefer something else, we'll work with you on that.
I generally feel that there's a little more concern about any drawdowns or, overflows when there's salt getting into the environment. I don't know that, I mean, if this is a health matter, then perhaps that, maybe there's something that can be done to capture the drawdown. I don't know, but generally.
So my consultant said that this dry well that they're going to provide would address some of that concern, but we would work with you. If chlorine is the better route, I'm sure we can figure this out.
Okay.
Please.
Yep. Yeah. Either. I mean, I know there's bromine and chlorine. And
Yeah.
some other,
Yes.
I mean,
It was
and I
bromine,
really don't
I
know.
think that they had looked at, not
But,
chlorine. But
Typically, Janet, there's no drawdown except for backwash, which is not a significant amount of water. It's just to clear the filter medium. So I don't know.
They do draw down the pool below the coping and the tile.
Oh yeah, but
So
For the winter.
only in terms of rain, excessive rain, and
No, they're during the before the winter, they're going to draw it down below the tiles so they don't pop the tiles. In the past, the planning board has asked that, in areas of environmental sensitivity that you utilize a chlorinated pool because the
Sure.
salt water doesn't break down and you're discharging it basically to groundwater adjacent to a wetland.
Right.
The chlorine, if you let it sit, you let the pool sit for a period of a couple of weeks, the chlorine dissipates and it's gone. So that's been the board's take on this preference for chlorine pools for that reason.
Right.
I will commit to you in our resubmission, we will work that through and get that taken care of. If you will help me with this, that's how important this is to us.
Okay. I think the other thing that we saw was some question on mitigation plans, and I'm sure that Jan's more than capable of helping with that. So I guess the other question I would have is, Jan, would you feel comfortable if we sent this administratively?
Yeah, I think of all the choices of where to put the pool, I thought the pool location was appropriate. Like you said, it's a constrained lot, but it's an appropriate location in terms of the choices. So there are some things to work out, but nothing that can't be overcome. And I would certainly work with them on an administrative level.
Okay, and I guess the only other thing I would ask is that the question about where the septic expansion area is, so that we're not limiting that. And I don't know what that is, but other than that, so hearing that Jan is willing to take this on administratively and.
Can I, and
Yes, go ahead.
can I think another just step before you do that, if you're going to do that, would be to get this routed to the building department.
Right.
Just to get a clean bill of health from a building perspective,
Okay.
a code perspective rather. Yeah.
All right, so so I think we do that by consensus.
Yes.
So everybody okay with
Yep.
referral? Okay. So next is, if there are there any other questions for Ms. Adler?
Yes, that's my
Yep.
name.
Yeah, I know, but I'm looking to see if anybody else has questions for you. Yes, Charlene.
The bridge, how do we deal with the bridge, or will that be dealt with the pool?
Same package, yeah.
I believe that can also be done administratively. I think that the thing I hadn't realized is that I saw putting the concrete down and I was concerned. I didn't realize that that actually is moving current foundations further away. And I think that was very helpful to hear. So again, any other questions? So hearing none, I guess I would look for a motion to put the Adler Greenwald application administratively.
So moved.
Thank you, Jerome.
Second.
Thank you, Charlene. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll poll the board. Jerome,
Aye.
Charlene,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. So we have agreed to send this administratively. Thank you very much for your time, Ms. Adler.
Thank you. Can I just thank you all so much? I can't tell you how much I appreciate your consideration and your generosity. I promise you, you'll get everything on by October 1st. Thank you.
Okay, so
Take care.
Okay.
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Okay. And thank you, Jan, for that help on that one. Our next item on the agenda is the Stein residence, calendar number 30-20WP, calendar number 05-20SW. This is the Stein residence, 51 Pine Hill Drive, South Salem, New York. This is the application for the construction of a single family house. This is a house that's on a driveway. It is on a shared driveway. And we have a number of items. Let me first see who is on for the applicant.
That would be me, if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay.
So state your name for the tape,
Sure.
if you would.
Sure. My name is Brian Hildenbrand. I am the engineer for the project, representing the Stein family. And would it be easier if I shared my screen and walked everyone through the plan?
Sure.
Okay.
Briefly.
Sure. Okay. So 51 Pine Hill Drive is this vacant lot behind 45 and 49 Pine Hill Drive. These two existing homes actually have an easement over our property. They enter through this driveway. There's an existing culvert crossing. So that's all existing. What the plan is to develop this vacant lot. So here, just quick again, there's a survey. Here's that stream crossing. There's one neighbor here, another a little further down. They have an easement over our property here, and just so a little zoomed in proposed layout, single family house.
Excuse me, I don't know, maybe my internet is poor, but I am still stuck on the first.
The GIS rather than your maps.
Okay. Let's see.
Sometimes these things
You
need
share?
to stop sharing and restart.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I see something now.
You see the site plan now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Do you see the survey now? Just, I wanted to,
Yes,
okay. So just to orient everyone, here's that existing stream, the culvert, existing driveway that's there now, and our vacant lot beyond. And just quickly, here's the proposal is to develop with a single family residence with a well, septic, stormwater system. We do have several constraints on this lot. Primarily the wetland buffer, which is this, I'm gonna draw it, it'll be shaky. This is the 150-foot wetland buffer. We have an easement in the rear of the property for NYSEG power lines. Our typical zoning setbacks. So it kind of constrains us into a corner where we still have to fit a septic system. We are working with the health department. We did soil testing in this area. It is a viable spot outside of the 100-foot buffer, which they require us being outside of. So it's going to be a little bit of a balance. I know there's some concerns about us being wholly within the buffer. So if there's any wiggle room to slide the house back and slide the driveway back, we can certainly look at those layout options. And just so the septic is planned to go off of the existing driveway in this corner. Our house, our well would have to be down here to meet our setbacks to the septic. And then we're proposing stormwater mitigation. The soils down here were very good. They perked very fast. So we plan on either infiltrating or doing some kind of bioretention practice here, which will overflow to the wetland. So, I mean, this is our first time here in front of this board. So can certainly answer any questions that you guys might have.
okay, maybe I'll ask a question to start with. What are the restrictions for the easement in the back? Can anything at all go back there?
My understanding is that no permanent improvements should be within the power lines, because this way, if there's any need for access or maintenance, you know, if anything, I don't know the liability if things get damaged or what. So that was my understanding, that, you know, we could grade within it, but we weren't going to put any structures or other permanent improvements.
And do they need access across your land, or how does that, do they get access along their whole route?
What I've seen in the past is that they traverse up the power lines. Usually you see like their maintenance tracks underneath the lines, or they have their little dirt roads. There's nothing too formal in this area as far as that goes. It's not a huge high tension line. It doesn't seem like it. But just to be safe, we are staying clear of that area.
Okay.
But I know it was brought up in a comment to get the actual language in the deed. So I'm working with the owner to get a formal copy of any restrictions.
Yeah, that would be helpful. But knowing that you can't have a permanent, or that it sounds like you can't have a permanent structure there, I think helps us as we look at this. The other question I would have is, would you are the plans to put both the primary septic system and the expansion area in that section that you have identified off in I don't know which corner it is.
Yes, down in well, I guess it's south, but in this corner, yes, this will be the
west corner.
Yes.
Okay.
So both primary and expansion.
Great. Okay. Do we have anyone else have any other comments at this point?
Has DOH approved it as of yet?
No, we do not have approval. We are making a formal submission now that we did the soil testing, but it's kind of a parallel track between the town and the county at this point.
So the wetland 150-foot buffer line that wetland buffer that you pointed to before,
Mhm.
the wetland is to the north of that, right? So the buffer is to the north.
Yes.
So the entire house is in the buffer.
Yes, it is.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jan's memo suggested, and I certainly would like an exploration of whether it could sort of shift to what I guess is the south, a little bit towards the boundary line a little bit more, and maybe move the driveway as well, just and or else perhaps, as the CAC recommended, think about putting a more permeable driveway in. It doesn't look really steep, so maybe there's a way, if it has to stay that close to the wetland,
Yeah.
maybe to make it more, because that's pretty close to
Mhm.
to everything there.
You know,
Yes.
I have an observation, Janet, and it's never come up before in situations where the entire residence is in the buffer. But I think the real concern would be the garage, concrete slab, and possible fluids, whether it's oil, hydraulic fluids from tractors, paint thinners, all sorts of things that we normally restrict. If it was a freestanding shed, we'd say you got to have a sign on there that says none of that will go on. But here's a case where the garage is clear and the driveway, and the garage pitching out toward the driveway probably, have all of those potential issues, and containment might be difficult because of the garage entry. So I wonder if there's any thought about that, if Jan, if you have any suggestions, or if that's been discussed.
Well, I did not make that observation in the memo, although, you know, it is something that the board's discussed in the past. I'm sure, Brian, you located the driveway there to maximize the site distance, but if there's any way to move the house towards the, right on the side yard setback there, and run the driveway along the septic and push everything away from the wetland, maybe that addresses some of the concerns, but
Yeah, I mean, we can
opportunity.
certainly look at that.
Yeah.
What about pitching the garage to a sort of a depression in the center, with a catch basin with an oil water separator or something, that would have to be maintained and capture the runoff in the garage as a remediation.
I think you're almost better not having a drain in the garage, because then, gives them the opportunity to wash a car, whatever they're going to do inside. And it's, I guess I don't have that. I guess it depends on each homeowner, right? And what they store. And to me, I'm not that sensitive to that particular issue, because I don't know how much it would happen if they had drainage inside the structure. That might lead to more problems than if there wasn't a drain. But it's up to the board, I guess.
Yeah, so I think I would be more comfortable if this was a little further from wetland somehow, but again, I understand that site distance might be a limiting factor, but I guess I'd ask for sort of to explore that.
It is a very low use driveway, though.
Oh yeah.
I don't recall it. I don't know how significant of an issue it really is, but I'm sure there's some logic to where the driveway is placed. But if you could move the driveway so it's further further away, and you might also have some DEP restrictions that may want you to move that driveway a little further away.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly explore that. And one of the other reasons that's, I guess, not environmentally based was being sensitive to the neighbor, just the way the house is orientated. You're almost looking at their back deck here. So rather than having a driveway kind of aimed at their house, which is why we kind of hit the catty corner. But maybe we could split the difference somehow. And like I said, balance the septic layout with the site distance and shift everything as much as possible.
Okay, I think that's a lot of our concerns. I do know that, well, I guess I would ask whether anyone has a interest in going and seeing this property and doing a site walk.
Probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. So we typically do that the Saturday before our next meeting, which in this case would be October 16th. Does that work for people?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so would Brian, do you think it would be possible to come out on, I guess we usually do this around 9 o'clock on October 16th to take a look at the area?
Sure, yeah.
I'm
Sounds
wondering, since this is a common driveway, I guess we'll just park along it, and if anybody has to go out or in, I don't know exactly how that is typically handled on a shared driveway. But we'll pull to the side and hope that people can get around if we park there. And at 9 o'clock, maybe not too many people are rushing out.
Mhm.
Is there one car beyond this? I mean, one house beyond this, or two, did you say? I think
Just one beyond.
just one. All right, well then. Okay, I think that would be helpful. I think the other things, there are a couple, one action other that Jan has identified for us, which is to refer it to the building inspector, which I guess we should do, even though it's likely to be changed.
Maybe, perhaps you hold off until after the site walk.
Okay, until the
I mean,
resubmission.
right. I just, there might be a reorientation of the house, of the driveway. Jan did identify that there's an issue about access and the lack of frontage on a public street and the potential for a 280A authorization from the town board. But I think all that would be best handled by the building inspector in kind of one package, instead of having something go to him now and then something revised after the site walk or a potential resubmission.
And I didn't realize, one of the maps Brian showed was, this is actually a flag lot that has frontage on a public road. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it does out here.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't focus. I'm sure he submitted this, but I didn't see it. That might be a non-issue.
It may, yeah. Ultimately, it's the building inspector's call, but rather than giving this to the building inspector twice, I just think, why don't we wait to see what happens if there are any refinements after the site walk?
What is the width of that road currently that's going into the flag lot?
I don't know. I'm going to guess and say, but it's about 10 feet wide. You mean the existing driveway?
Yeah, that portion right there, yeah.
It's 10 or 12 feet.
Is that adequate for a shared driveway, John?
Well, the town has standards for common driveways. How many lots, Brian, would this serve?
3 lots.
This would be the last of the 3.
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a sliding scale depending on the number of lots served. But we should go back to see what was originally approved, if there was any standards approved at that time when the subdivision was created. Because obviously the road's in already, right? So if that was approved by the planning board as a 12-foot wide driveway, that's what was installed. I would assume that decision's already been made.
Right.
So we have to take a look at the record. Good point, though.
Yeah, it might be that we would perhaps ask for a little pull-off in case something, emergency equipment needed to go by. But I think if you have driveways off, I think people can sort of slide into a driveway too. So I don't really know how urgent that is. All right. So we plan a site walk. I think, Brian, you have the memo to look at. You can submit before we go on a site walk. Feel free to do that. And is there anything else before we move on to the next? Go ahead, Jerome.
Well, make it clear that we want the corners of the house and the center line of the driveway staked. Right?
Okay. Yes. So, if you resubmit, you can do it of the resubmitted of the whatever the then current plan is.
Oh, okay. I'll have to see where we're at and when we can get a surveyor out there and still make changes. Okay.
Brian, you can stake the house. Doesn't have to be done by a surveyor.
Right. Yeah.
Why don't you stake what's proposed so the board could see it, and then maybe also stake if you were going to shift the house, where that would be, just an offset or something. Maybe a side yard setback.
Yeah, some reference point. Okay.
You can.
As Jan said, this doesn't have to be surveyed. This is to give us a sense of where things lay on the land, but
Gotcha.
It's not where you're going to build.
Good. All right. Gotta be nervous. Okay, no problem.
No, that's why I guess it's good to bring it up. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll see you on October 16th and perhaps October 19th.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is calendar number 53-21WP. This is the NIDA residence, 10 Lambert Ridge, Cross River, New York. And it's the application for the installation of a pool together with a patio. So I think I saw, yes.
I'm the homeowner.
Hi.
Hi. And Greg Mercurio is the one who's representing me.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
So Greg, perhaps you'd like to introduce this?
Yes, definitely. I'm just sharing a few files right now. So let me see where we're at. Okay, I believe these are the sets of plans that you guys have. My name is Greg Mercurio. I'm representing the NIDA residents, and we're proposing a 35 by 16 foot in-ground liner pool. We are within the 150-foot wetland buffer. That buffer is this outer arc on the outside of the sheet here. That 150-foot wetland buffer has a majority of the house in it, possibly majority of the property within it. One of the comments from the CAC was, I'm not sure why, but they were wondering where the 100-foot wetland setback is. and that's this wetland setback. I just added this to the drawing. The pool is downslope from the wetland area, which is on the adjacent property. This adjacent property was permitted a swimming pool about 10 years ago. They installed mitigation plantings in this buffer area right over here. We had Steve Coleman come out to the property to take a look to confirm that the wetlands were in fact still wetlands, which he did confirm, and we've included that letter in our application. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We originally had done a plan that was under 5,000 square feet of disturbance, but I believe that because we're within the buffer, we needed to do some stormwater mitigation. And the proposed new rain gardens that we put in and associated grading puts us over that 5,000 square foot threshold now. So it's kind of challenging because it seems like there's a lot of bumps along this path, and we're just trying to mitigate and do the things that we've done in the past to be successful. But apparently there's a lot of comments. I guess I'll kind of leave it at that and wait to see what you guys want to bring to the table on this.
I do have a couple of questions, I guess. First of all, we don't see this a lot, but I believe that this area is served by a public water supply and a public sewer as opposed to septic. And I just want to confirm that because it's different for us.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I saw that there said no well or septic system, so the alternative is assuming that there's a sewer. And the other question, is it chlorine or saltwater pool that is being proposed?
Rubina, do you know the
You're muted.
It's salt water.
Salt water.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have that continued concern with any drawdown for salt water.
Did they say salt water?
Salt water.
Yeah.
The pool company's not here this evening, but it's a liner pool. They don't have tiles on it, and they've done multiple pools in this area and in Lewisboro, and their position is that they don't draw the water down in the pool. I don't know how much of an impact that has on it or not, but that's word on the street from what the pool company says, and it's always kind of a point of contention, it seems like, with the pools, but more so importantly, obviously within the wetland setback. One of the things is that it is downslope of the wetland, so any runoff associated with this project is not going to be going towards the wetland area, which I think is kind of an important consideration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I would ask, it looked like on the on this, when you look at the rain gardens that are put in place now for the, and I recognize that that's really for the patio runoff. The overflow of that appears to go out to the storm drain in the street. And I was going to ask Jan what to make of that. I hadn't, again, we don't generally see that.
Yeah, typically it's not run to the street. You're to kind of control it on site. If it were to be overflowed to the street drainage system, they would have to demonstrate that there is the same or a lesser amount of water going to that drain in the proposed condition than the existing. So this is a project that's in the New York City Water Code. It's over 5,000 square feet of disturbance. There's a requirement. It's not a town requirement. It's New York State DEC, that you prepare a SWIP. The town has heightened requirement for stormwater mitigation. And we have a longstanding policy of treating the 25-year storm event for projects of this size. So that all has to get demonstrated. They're proposing 2 rain gardens, but there's additional study and calculations to be provided to demonstrate compliance with the town's regs and the state's regs. Just for the board's understanding, this project's before you, not because of the pool, but because of the size of the patio. The pool itself could be permitted, administrative permit, because it's over 50 feet away from the wetland. But the patio exceeds the threshold surface area in the wetland buffer. So it's before you for that reason. Otherwise, it'd be treated administratively.
Right, right.
I do had some questions. They did some report from Steve Coleman. He indicated that he had delineated the wetland, identified the wetland flags, but those don't appear on the plan. So this should be shown. And, we had comments about mitigation. The town has a policy of 1-to-1 mitigation. So basically, since all the disturbance is in the wetland buffer, you have over 5,000 square feet of disturbance, you need 5,000 or more square feet mitigation. I think you're a little short. And then the remainder of the comments were really stormwater related and compliance with SWIP.
Hey, Jan?
Yeah.
How much over the 5,000 is the patio? Or does the patio bring it?
Well, I think the threshold's 500.
500. Right.
I don't know. I don't know the exact calculation. It's not provided, but.
Well, I just wondered if the applicant would be willing to reconsider the size of the patio and take it under the maximum 500 and avoid any further planning board involvement, get right to administrative.
Greg, what do you think?
Well, I don't, is it a net 500? Because there is an existing patio behind the house now.
No, it's proposed, but not including the pool.
Not including the what?
Not including the pool.
Not including the pool. So if we have a 500 square foot patio now, and we propose, so the total patio size has to be under 500 square feet.
It's not a net. If you're proposing a 500 or more square foot patio, it's a planning board review. So they're asking you can you reduce the proposed patio to 500 square feet or less than 500 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, I could do that real quick. I'm just gonna have to kind of run it by my client and see what their thoughts are on it. Maybe after I do a revised concept and see what they think about it. But it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think I would visually need to take a look.
Sure.
Because we already have an existing patio, so I didn't even think that was even in the question.
And it wouldn't negate the need for the mitigation or the stormwater unless, you reduced it so much that you're under the 5,000 square feet of land disturbance. But, you're going to have to provide the mitigation no matter what, because all the improvements are proposed within the buffer.
Right.
But it would get you out, potentially get you out of like the planning board review process.
There were I mean, I think I'll have to talk to Rubina about that. I mean, because there's a lot of other stipulations in the comments, Jan, that we would have to get a new survey done for the property. We'd have to do a tree survey, but we're not proposing to remove any trees. I mean, we could put the comments on there. So,
well, I indicated that you're showing the trees, so you must have them located, correct?
yeah, but it's just through my field measurements. It wasn't through a surveyor,
But I think the comment said provide a tree survey unless you're not removing any trees, then provide a note on the plan that you're not removing any trees.
Correct.
So I'm not asking you for a tree survey unless you're removing trees.
Yeah, no, we're not.
The town law requires you to have a tree survey for work within the wetland buffer, so. So, like the
Right.
comments are right out of the ordinance, so it's not making anything.
So if there are no trees removed, I mean, I think what we're trying to do is make this,
Says the applicant shall submit an updated existing condition survey boundary and 2-foot contour signed and sealed by a New York State licensed land surveyor. That's,
Yeah, you didn't provide a survey. So, I mean, I don't know what this is based off of, but all of our applications come with surveys. You don't, it has to, it's just got to be a survey that's consistent with what's out there.
I understand, but I mean, we've submitted a lot of plans. I think it's saying you guys just reviewed the mitigation plan L3. We did include a survey as a part of our original application. It didn't have the contours on it, but it was stamped by a surveyor. So
where did the contour information come from?
that was come from Westchester County GIS. I think that was noted on the plans.
You got a lot of drainage going on, so typically we're getting topo surveys. I didn't see the survey. I don't know if did it was submitted with the planning board or with the building department?
Well, it was definitely part of the building department application.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily see what you submit to the building department.
Okay. I mean, that's something we could include then, and we can kind of take it from there, I suppose.
right, it sounds like perhaps there's some discussion that Jan and Greg should have on this to get it sort of cleared up. I was going to say, and one of the recommendations from Jan was a referral to the building inspector, but if it's going to change again, perhaps this is, although I don't know, does he really look at patio size? I mean, what he needs to look at setbacks and that.
I mean, the whole thing too about having to, like, we weren't required to have Steve Coleman go out there. No one stipulated that we have Steve go out there to look at the wetlands. We kind of did that on our own interest to see really what was going on with the wetlands. So yeah, he went out there and he put flags, but now it's kind of like another step. Like now we have to get a surveyor to come back out there, and it's not on Rubina's property. It's on the neighbor's property. I mean,
Steve needs to say something like, hey, the wetland that's shown on your plan L1 is consistent with what's in the field.
Okay.
He wrote a report and said, hey, I did a delineation, I flagged the wetland, and there's no reference to anything. So his wetland line can be completely different than what's shown on this drawing. There's no, he doesn't make reference to this drawing at all.
Yeah, I understand.
We usually don't have people delineate offsite wetlands, and like you said, that we didn't ask you to do that. You did that on your own.
Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of like, it's a marginal wetland, so it was just, and it was upslope from where our disturbance was. So we just really just want to confirm that it was actually a wetland. I mean, that was what we did.
We've had this conversation multiple times. The town doesn't have any sort of threshold for wetland quality or whether it's uphill or downhill. You provided a report that showed a wetland or identified that a wetland was delineated, but it wasn't shown on any map. So if Steve wants to say that the wetland that's depicted on your drawing here is accurate, then that's going to be.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, should we submit this as it is to the building inspector, or should we, Jan, should you feel like we should wait for a resubmission?
I would wait. I mean, it's not, I don't see any issues here. I don't think Joe is either, and he might as well, he's going to be reviewing it at a time of building permit application anyway. So I don't think the applicant's losing any time by having him review the plan that's going to be put forward.
Yeah.
So I'm unclear. Should we refer it?
I would hold off.
Hold off. Okay.
Referring it until the plan's revised. I don't think the applicant's losing any time because he's going to do a zoning analysis regardless.
Okay. And I don't know if this is something that we need to, or we want to think about doing a site walk for.
I don't think so. I wouldn't.
You would not?
No.
Yeah, I'm also feeling that this is, this is probably the location it's going to be. I mean, it's not like we have much say on this, so I also don't feel as much need for a site walk. I can't see everybody. Let me look and see if either Charlene or Greg.
No.
Okay. And I saw Greg shaking his head. Okay, so we'll skip over that. So again, our submission date for the next meeting is September 28th. If you can update this, and again, especially if the patio size can get below our threshold, then I guess we don't have a new submission, but it's helpful. And I think, John, we covered all the CAC comments on this as well. Okay, so thank you. If you could stop sharing.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else before we leave? Okay. Thank you very much. So the next item on our agenda is calendar number 62-21WP, calendar number 15-21SW. This is the Stevelman Orchard on Robbinswood Lane in South Salem, New York. And this is an application for an orchard on vacant land.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
good evening.
Paul Stievelman and Perry Stievelman were the homeowners, and we're being represented by Lewis and Paul Fusco, and they're going to provide an overview.
Hi, I'm Louis Fusco, landscape architect, representing Paul and Perry on this rather unique application that we don't usually see. This is an adjacent building property lot to the Stevelman's home that they're proposing the construction of an orchard. They were before the zoning board back in July, where they received a special use permit for the installation of an orchard. We did receive comments from Jan just the past day or two, and we've made some adjustments to the plans, which we've just recently resubmitted, which I can go through if you permit. I will share the screen and review some of the adjustments that we have made to the site plan.
Sure, that would be fine.
Everyone see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. The existing site is just over 1 acre, and it is a wooded site.
Could you zoom into the site rather than the rest of the details? That would be helpful.
Okay.
Use the plus sign, there you go.
Actually, before I'm going to just show you a couple of photos because I'm sure most people haven't been out at the site. This is just a site of the conditions of the existing area. There's really very little understory on the property at all.
I think we're still seeing your plan, or at least I am.
Yeah. It's up here. Okay, we'll stick with the plan. I'm trying to see if I can get the photos. Paul, do you have any help with bringing the photos into the share?
Some people have had to stop sharing.
Oh, here it is. I got it. Maybe does that help?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the existing site. You can see the Paul and Perry's home in the distance here, where we'll be making connections to the property for the orchard. So the plan is to clear the wooded site. It's a fence of their existing wetland is off-site, which I'll show you on the plan, and we're protecting a number of the larger trees that are at the perimeter edge. And this is just a quick shot of the apple orchard at Paul and Perry's existing home.
Hey, Paul, how old do you think that tree is there? Just out of curiosity.
That one is probably
15.
12 to 15 years old.
Thanks.
Sure.
So, so the plan right now, Paul was pleasant enough to give us a little history of how he got into the apple orchard when we've spoken a few times. And he's been a resident for 20 years in your town. He has long roots there. And right from the start, they started planting some trees on his property. And the proposal here is by no means, it is not a commercial establishment. All of the apples that they grow are given away at, he deals with a few which Paul can share a little bit more later with the different organizations that they donate their trees to, their apples to. It's for different food banks. There's a Stanford school system, churches, synagogues, and it was wildly approved by the neighbors who are all at the zoning. And we've created a walking path that'll enter the property from here. This is a construction access. There will not be any drive or road on the property. Right now, this is their existing driveway. Access to the property for pedestrians and for the homeowners and all will be from this property area. We have some stepping stones and paths that will wind around the orchard area. This diagram over here that you can see, which we can zoom in some more on, is actually a diagram of the cut and fill on the property. This is our 150-foot wetland buffer, which is the wetland is off-site here. We have no grading within that area. The plan that was originally submitted had a pretty much a constant slope throughout this area. Existing right now, there's a ridge line or high point here and another slightly high point here. We're playing off those high points in these two areas and creating little, basically will be some stone slab sitting area with a little stone wall, sitting wall around it. These areas would be grass mowed lawns. We've graded down to a rain garden area in the low point here, which is basically the natural grade, except we've manipulated the grading a little to retain the water in this area. The current runoff in this section runs in this direction and this direction to the neighbor's property and down to the wetlands here. Most of this will be continuing to go into that same direction. However, our improvements are tremendous with regard to the plantings and grading, and with the new trees and all added, we've now changed the existing conditions. Right now it's running over dirt and leaf matter, and we've proposed a pretty extensive buffer of wetlands. One of the comments from Jan was to increase the buffer with the neighboring property. We've increased that buffer area and plantings adjacent to that. There will be some evergreen screening and flowering plants and shrubs with that natural buffer area that was maintained. We've increased, and all in this area here will be a wildflower meadow around the apple orchards. These large circles are showing the approximately 50 new apple trees. The apple trees will be installed anywhere from some transplants of 6 inches and plus from his existing orchard on his backyard to some that'll be bare root 3/4 inch caliper trees. We are proposing, these are like some lawn steps that bring you down this gradual area to the only structure on the site, which would be basically a covered open pavilion space. Still up in the air right now if it will be solid covered or a pergola space in this area here. These little squares are representing just some vegetable garden beds that would be flowers and garden beds that would be coordinated with the sitting space here. And this again would be a more of a stroll garden sitting area in this area here. There's a gate that will be accessible from here, which is an opening. It's a cul-de-sac road. Their neighbors stroll and they would be welcome to come and pick apples and stroll on the property as well. access from the property, which was one of the comments also from Jan, will be up in this area here and here from the existing driveway. Access for any maintenance and all will be also in that area. A few of the other comments were just regarding the well location. We've located the well as central as possible in here. I'm showing 100-foot setback, the 100-foot well radius here. The neighboring septic is on the far side of their property, way outside of the 100 feet. The Stilverman's setback is also on the opposite side of their property, outside of it. And when the well is obviously approved, proposed for health department, we will, show all required setbacks from any of the neighboring septics. But it seems like we're far, and we have the flexibility since nothing else is being put on the plan. I'm trying to think if there are any other comments. That one of the comments was just access and drive. We have the construction access shown on the previous plan here, and that was extended to 50 feet as per Jan's request. We're showing details of the perimeter fence. The perimeter fence on the front would be a wood panel fence that will match his existing fence. We do have some deer fencing that wraps the rest of it, of the area. There's an existing stone wall that acts almost as its own natural buffer barrier at the back edge of the property here, just running in this area here. We're saving a number of the larger oak trees in the back property line area, and as we plant our mitigation plantings in that area as well. Trying to think if we've covered. Excuse me?
That's pretty thorough, I'd say.
Okay.
I have a question. Jan, the only reason this is before us is the activity in the wetland area. Is that correct? The pathway and the trees that have been removed?
It's a wetland permit, like any other.
Right.
We're over the disturbance threshold.
Right. Well, I wonder, has the applicant considered leaving that area naturalized and just sacrificing a few of the apple trees and pulling the pathways in and not disturbing the wetland? I mean, it's a beautiful plan. It's very, luxurious and like a stroll garden. I've never seen an orchard as well laid out, so to speak. But if that's the only reason that it's before us, what about considering at this point?
I thank you for the question, and I didn't want to sacrifice a portion of the property that could be used for creating the garden. So I'm very happy to go through the permit process, and we've had very productive conversations with Jan, and he's been very open-minded about it. So I thought I would rather go through the process, make everyone very aware of what we're doing, and be able to use it rather than leave it, because right now it's really just dead trees and leaves and very few valuable trees. And I think we can make it a very beautiful, productive space, even in that wetland area. And so that's why I'm happy to go through the process. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does partially, and I commend you for wanting to follow through on your vision. But one of the reasons for the buffer is to maintain biodiversity and to do the purification process as water flows down into that wetland area. And by creating a mowing and other activities there, it could. I'm suggesting. The board may feel differently, but it could be having a deleterious effect to some extent on the effectiveness of the buffer. So we're a little bit at odds with the idea of creating a vision in a man-made world, as opposed to leaving the biodiversity to support the wetlands.
I think what we're creating here, though, is a lot more biodiversity than what's out there. If you wanted to, I can pull back those photos. That area is, the amount of diversity there is absolutely minimal. This is the area that we're talking that is in the buffer. That's that existing wall. And what we're proposing in that area is, hundreds of new shrubs, plants, and I'll just come back to the plan here. The amount of planting that we're bringing into this whole area. And to Paul's point, this is that buffer, and it does, take away a good, almost a third of the usable space. And if we were to leave that in the natural condition without any of the understory or any of plantings, I don't think it's by any means adding to the biodiversity in this area. We're going to have wildflower meadow under the trees here, and a low mow, minimal mow, sedges and grasses under the trees in this area, and basically just a walking path through it. The path could adjust. We could, this isn't an essential, if that's the critical point.
It's also very challenging to have large canopy trees near an orchard, because an orchard needs full sun. And so I was hoping, I think, I'd like to hear from Jan whether he's comfortable with the plan as proposed, because there isn't a lot of biodiversity there now. And I actually think we'll be creating more biodiversity.
Mhm.
That one tree that you showed a photograph of looked pretty impressive. Where is that on the property?
That's back
Yeah,
here.
we're
in the
saving
corner.
it.
I'm overstating it?
Yeah, those
We're
are the
saving
ones
it.
that we're
Oh,
saving.
you're saving it. Oh, yeah. It looks
Saving. No, you're not overstating. We are saving it.
No, I mean, it's funny when, to be honest with you, Paul had dropped into our office, had heard about some of the work we were doing here in Pound Ridge, and came in, and we were in a rush to get that first plan to you. And when I went out to the site to meet him, after we had submitted the first site plan, I was expecting to see somewhere on the site another one or two trees that I would really be wanting to save. And to be honest with you, the only ones were really at the edge of the buffer here. You can welcome to walk the site, but as Paul mentioned, there's a lot of dead trees or smaller trees, some invasive Norway's maples and all. The nicest trees are really at the edge. Some of them need a little bit of care with some storm damage, but but those are definitely the more mature, attractive trees.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is there is no real understory there, and I think they did a really nice job of providing a plan, particularly in the buffer, that would provide probably better habitat than is there today. And from what I understand, this is a pretty organic type operation with. I don't have to worry about herbicide, pesticide applications. Well, I felt, pretty comfortable so long as they can demonstrate that the rate of runoff isn't increasing. That the coverage type going from forest to, meadow, it does change the rate of runoff. So we just want to make sure that we're not increasing flows. I think that could be demonstrated. I'm happy to see the rain garden down below. My main concern when reviewing this was really impacts to the neighbor from a drainage perspective, just clearing the site. I know actually it will be, completely vegetated again, but that's going to take some time, especially if you're planting smaller trees. But I think there's been a lot of work here, and a lot of my comments appeared to be addressed or addressable. The plan is. I was just curious. Sorry, step in again, but you mentioned the ZBA. Have you been to the ZBA already? I thought somebody mentioned in their opening remarks that the neighbors were pleased. And
that's what I heard too.
Oh, we've been to zoning, yes, in July, and the Casanelli family, Helen, came, and she's the neighbor that's adjacent to the empty lot. They're 100% supportive. I spoke to her today, as a matter of fact. She said, "Tell everyone I'm supportive in all conditions." It's on the record, because she spoke on the record at the meeting, and so did another one of our neighbors came to the meeting. And we've developed these plans with Helen. We've sat down with the Casanellis, gone through it with them, and they were very happy actually to have no buffer, but we're happy to include a buffer. But they're excited about the plan, and at zoning. And it was approved at zoning, and at zoning, she came specifically to say she was happy with the project.
So you have the special permit from the.
Yeah, we have it. It
Okay.
was signed.
So I think it would be it would be helpful if you believe your neighbor would be willing to send a quick email or something to document to us her or their willingness to see this go forward as designed. I do want to speak up just a little bit for biodiversity in that, you know, a lot of salamanders and so forth need like 300 feet from a wetland. Maybe I have that wrong. Maybe it's 300 yards, but they need a long way from a wetland, and they like the basically the leaf duff and the undisturbed areas. But that said, I think you probably are increasing things like pollinator sources, pollinator landing zones, and so forth by going here. So
Bird habitat.
yeah. So I do have another question, I think. I noticed that you say you have a box for electrical cable and water. I guess you need electric to run the well, but why are you gonna, what's cable for? Are you gonna have internet? Okay.
No.
I was thinking internet,
No.
control of the irrigation or something. Okay.
No.
I think I know, I don't know how we do this, even if you are very good about pesticides and their use on the property. A future owner might not be that way. So I don't know how we, if there's a way that we can put in that this is in the, I mean, obviously if there's some kind of blight, there might be a need, but to say that general principles are that it will be managed as organically as possible. I don't know about that, but
I would think that could be handled through, a condition that's crafted either by the board if it retains jurisdiction or by Jan,
okay.
if this goes administratively.
Yeah.
Okay.
That prohibition already exists in the wetland ordinance and all wetland buffers.
Yeah, right.
That's for the buffer, but yeah, I don't know.
Apply to their project, that could be a condition.
Okay, the other thing that I just generally have is, and maybe this is a little bit of what Jan addressed before, is I've been picking apples in some pretty hilly terrain, and I'm not, I understand that you have to clear the area to put these in, but I'm not quite sure why you need to regrade what appears to be so much of the area. Is that just to make it nicer, or will it actually help the trees? I mean, I'm not quite sure.
It's because the portion of the land in the wetlands actually is very nicely graded and doesn't really need grading, but there are other areas that look like they were excavated for topsoil. So there's mountains and valleys that just need to be evened out. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, these two areas in particular that Paul's referring to have obviously had some work done to them at some point and seem to be a strange contours in here. I think the gentler slope obviously benefits for the amount of, the runoff, of course, would be it slows it down in areas. And I think it was allowing us to create the rain garden in this area as well. But I think that, we tried to work with the high points in here. There's actually going to be a, peach garden of trees here and a pear trees over in this area, just as a diversity within the actual orchard.
Yeah. Janet?
Yes, Jerome.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact area of the slide and what the zoning is, but this could be a residence or it could be maybe two residences. And if it went conventionally, I think this is so far superior. And if the only reason it's here is the portion that extends into the wetland buffer, and we're okay with the rationale that the diversity is being improved, as Jan has substantiated he feels, I would suggest that we not spend any more time on it except to applaud it and say, let's go administrative and not split hairs here. I mean, it's a lovely plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I guess the first thing I would do is ask Jan if he feels that this is something, I'm looking for you, Jan.
Here.
There you are. If this is something that would be, that you're comfortable going administrative.
I'm comfortable, and especially while not required, they've responded to a lot of the comments already in short notice, and you can see the plans heading in the right direction, and no concerns in that regard.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. I guess I would say one of the things I would really like, though, on the record is some indication from the neighbor. I mean, I'm sure it's on the record in the ZBA, but if we could get just an email or something that would.
Extra tonight.
Perfect.
I can provide an email, but how about if when the minutes are produced, she will be on the I think the minutes may, if the minutes reflect her unequivocal support, may I provide that? Otherwise, I could also provide an email and she's happy to do it. Either way, it's easy.
Yes.
Either way.
And that could simply be part of your referral to Jan, is that you delegate to Jan getting some confirmation from the neighbor that the plan is satisfactory and
great. No,
and
it's
go
not
that way. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, that's what I meant, was that we would ask him, Jan, to do it as part of that. Because sometimes we do impose some conditions.
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
Let's, at first, I think we need to refer this to the building inspector. I think that was also in the memo. So
I think that was for zoning.
I didn't realize that it's already received.
If the special permit's been issued, I'm sorry, Jan. Yeah, I think we've cleared that hurdle.
Perfect. Okay. Then Jerome, please go ahead.
I'd make a motion that we refer this for administrative review and approval with the conditions stipulated that the pursuit of neighbor's letter be included.
All right, I'll second that.
Thank you, Greg. Any further discussion? All right, I'll pull the board. Jerome?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I also agree that we should make this an administrative, have this handled administratively. Thank you again, Jan, for doing this. And thank you for the applicants for coming in. I think that's all, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to bring up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
We'll be over to pick some apples.
Okay. With that, the next item on our agenda is calendar number 6-02 PB. This is Oak Ridge Gardens, also known as Laurel Ridge, 450 Oak Ridge Commons, South Salem, New York, 10590. This is in a request to amend the Laurel Ridge's resolutions from 2012. And I see Michael, so.
Yes, good evening again. I'm going to share my screen, if I may. Let's see if I can get to that. Is that coming up on your screen?
Like,
not on mine, but I have.
Mike White.
Okay.
No? Okay, let me get rid of that. Let me try. Is that up?
Nope.
No. Kirsten, can you help me on your end, or is this a problem on my end?
We allow screen sharing, so.
All right, let me.
Button.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Here we are.
All right, do I have it now?
Partially.
Is that up now?
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, all right. So this is the site plan, or at least phases 1 and 2 that you approved back in 2012. The total project at Laurel Ridge was 46 multifamily residences. And so the upper row here are buildings 1 through 4, which are units, 19 units. And then the lower row are buildings 5 through 8, and those are 17 units. So phase 1 and phase 2 are a total of 36 units. So let me go now to the phase 3, which is what we're here about. Is that up on your screen?
Not yet.
No.
No.
Okay, let me go back to sharing. All right, here we go. Let me pull it over. How's that? Is that up now?
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So phase 3 are buildings 9, which is here, 10, and then 11. And as I showed you in phase 1 and 2, that's 36 units. Phase 3 is being built in not in numerical order, but in reverse order. So building 11 down here, those 4 units are complete. And so when we add those 4 to the 36 of phase 1 and 2, we're at 40. And your original resolution said that when we go for a certificate of occupancy for the 41st unit, which is going to be one of these 3 units in building 10, that we would have to meet certain conditions that appear SP 56 subdivision A through D at page 20 of the resolution. And those conditions are kind of related to the site work, the finished top coat of the paving of the parking area and roadways, landscaping, as-built surveying. So it doesn't make sense to do those kind of final finished improvements while we're still under construction on building number 10 and building number 9. So what we're asking is, instead of the original stipulation or condition that we can't get our 41st CO until we do all of this site work, finishing touches, if so to speak, we're asking that you amend your resolution so that it reads, we can't pull our 46th or final CO until we do all of the final finishing touches. So the town and the neighbors are still protected, that we can't get a final CO on our final unit without doing this work. So that's the request. Phil Pine may be with us remotely to answer any questions I can't answer.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. It's Phil Pine, Laurel Ridge Development. How is everybody? So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Sure. So I have to say that, I wasn't certainly on the board or around at the time, but I'm sure that the board had some reason at that time to try to ask for a lot of this to get done before the very final unit was done. And I have to say, one of the ones that occurs to me, getting a lot of interference, or at least I am, and I don't know what that's from.
I hear it too.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time hearing. It sounds like a woman's voice that's cutting in on everything.
I looked and I don't see anybody else's.
I see some type of feedback from whoever's talking.
Okay, sorry. So my concern, maybe I'm going to try to get closer to the mic. My concern is that there has been a lot of concern about the water and wastewater, especially the water supply at this group. And one of the conditions is getting a sign off from a number of agencies, including the water and wastewater providers. I am hesitant to extend that in particular without knowing why, or understanding more about why the planning board, when it did approve this originally back in, I think probably before 2012, put those conditions in. And I really wonder whether we could maybe, rather than say, so let me go back. I certainly understand why you might say final top coat on the pavement. Okay, defer that until construction is done. But I am not so sure that you can't do some of the site landscaping, get some of the other sign-offs that were part of the conditions. So I guess I'm asking whether there could be, whether you need all of the conditions in this to be extended, or whether you can divide that up somewhat to give me more comfort, especially comfort on the water component of this.
Okay, so I can add something to this. The water and sewer has already been signed off on. So that all the mains, all of that is in. As we go along, we do the landscaping around the building. So that last building, which is building 9, just because we're kind of going backwards here, we're going to be doing the decks and a lot of the work around that building over the next 2 months. So you're not going to be able to finish all the landscaping around there. And I think, Jan and their office comes out weekly to see where we are with everything. So they know that we're finishing the job as we go on. We're going to have all the landscaping done around building 10 because we can't get COs unless we do that. The work that won't be done is the topping of the road because we're still going to have some big trucks coming in. We'll have, one of the other concerns normally is that there are 2 ponds there that take the sediment out of the major, out of the lake that's behind it, and nothing gets into that pond until that road is actually topped. So that shouldn't be a concern. And what I would love to do, because ultimately we want to finish this job, all the units are sold, I would love to come up with a punch list of, what's needed to actually finish this, over the next 3 to 5, I'd love to do it now. But as far as water and sewer, all of that is done, has been signed off by the health department. And we're in front of the town board now to actually release the escrow for that because all of that work has been done. So it's more work related to the work around the building, specifically the last building that's not done. So it's impossible to finish everything around that building and not be able to get COs in building number 10.
Yeah. Janet?
Yes.
So I actually signed the resolution approving in 2012. So, of course, I had been on the board for a short time before that, and the review process. Well, that's irrelevant. But I can understand where circumstances change as the sequence for development might be modified slightly. And as Phil Fine was just alluding to, maybe a punch list of the work that would be remaining and some kind of a assurance or in the form of a bond or for that minimal, or for what work remains. I would be in favor of modifying the resolution to incorporate that. The work's been done to date in very timely and workmanlike fashion, and there's no reason to believe it wouldn't continue.
Okay. Would it be possible? So I think I'm busily looking for, I printed out a bunch of things, but don't see the actual comments on the resolution, but I do know that
I have it here. If you want to screen share, I have it here.
Okay, I know that one of them was the sign-offs, including the water and wastewater, and that one caught my eye. I wonder if we could extend the other paragraphs or conditions, basically, and retain that one, or whether there are items in there that still are not signed off. If you,
That has been signed off. That's I think I'm in front of you right now also for the return of that bond, because that's been signed off by the health department. And Collard's office also was involved with all of that.
right, so if we could say, we'll extend the conditions for the other, I don't know, numbers 56 or, as I said, I'm.
SP 56, yeah.
Yeah, but not the one that is the one that has water and wastewater in it, then
That's subsection C.
Yeah.
subsection C. So maybe, so you understand what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say, I think where things have been done, let's not extend that one, but where things still need to be done, and it makes sense. And I do understand some of the landscaping, some of the wetland mitigation, the top coat, maybe even the as-built. I mean, I understand that you can't do an as-built until you've built it. But I would like to exempt the ones that are the sign-offs, because I believe those have been gotten. I don't know.
Yeah. Perhaps the best way to proceed would be, because given the fact that we've had an original resolution, full resolution from the board, it's been amended, you're going to want a written resolution for purposes of making this change. Why don't we take the time between now and the October meeting for a punch list to be developed? And if the board's comfortable with that, just have Jan and I work together with Phil and with Michael to develop, a resolution that kind of satisfies the board's concerns of culling out what can wait and keeping in what should be done before the COs are issued.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So I guess we do this by consensus. We ask that this resolution be developed that makes sense and identifies the items that still need to be done, but takes out the items that haven't been. Okay, so I saw Greg's finger, Jerome. Oh, wait, where's Charlene?
Here I am.
There you are, okay. And I also say yes, okay. So by consensus, please prepare a resolution for our next meeting to address this and handle the sort of the fact that the resolution isn't quite as clean. The current one doesn't, can be.
And a punch list of open items will be helpful to move that along.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's a deferral of certain work that permits the building inspector to go ahead and issue the necessary CO.
Right.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We'll see you on the 19th of October.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a discussion of calendar number 24-17 WP, calendar number 6-17 SW. This is the Grigor Pazikov Residence, 24 Gilbert Street, a driveway and parking configuration at a newly renovated 2-bedroom house. So this is a application that we as a board delegated to Jan to handle. There was a pretty a big change, I think. And so Jan brought it back to us just to take a look at and make sure that we were, or to get our reactions to how it, to this change. So, and I see we have Alex Grigor on. And I think it would be helpful to take a look at the plan. I don't know, perhaps Jan, if you have it.
Alex, are you prepared to share your screen or?
Oh, let me unmute. There I am. Yes. Hi. Yes, thank you. Yes, I can share my screen.
Oh, great.
Okay. Yeah. So. This plan may just differ ever so slightly from what the one you've got. I've got the previous one. They were just toying the engineer with just a second wall to try and mitigate the first wall, and I can talk about that in a minute.
Could you speak
so-
just a little louder? I'm sorry.
I'm
having-
sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. This, if you can hear me, this plan. Sorry, I just introduced my wife Stephanie as well. This plan may just differ ever so slightly from the one you were sent. There's just another wall showing here that the engineer was toying with the idea. I'll address that in a minute. But the big part that we're discussing is this driveway here at the top. And so there is sort of a couple of reasons for introducing this to you guys. If you remember, I can try and pull up the original one. Can you still see the shared screen of the original part? And so this is where there was a original parking area in this part. Here at the top, which
Alex, we're still seeing your proposed
you're
plan.
still seeing the proposed. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, anyway, if you look on this one where it says Asphalt Drive, there was a large parking area at the top that was predominantly in town property, and we then took a trip to the town to get special license use and things, and so the idea was perhaps if we pull some sort of parking area just completely into our property. So this sits right on our boundary line here. One of the concerns I think Jan came back to us with was that the wall was quite large and therefore quite a lot of fill. And we had realized mistakenly that in the plan that you had, the gradient was not moving at all. It was 540 all the way in, which made a very high parking area within it. And in fact, what we've just done in this updated one is just try and drop down the driveway into the property a little more, so that the wall comes down a couple of feet at least, and stick to the gradient allowances within the property. So the reason for that is just so that we're completely in the within the property where we park a couple of cars. The other part why it's this sort of loopway is we experimented every which way with what would we do with a car that came in and needed to then turn around to come out again. And there were all sorts of fairly large T-type shapes and so on. That proved pretty substantial in terms of both hardscaping and mitigation and stormwater and so on. So this seemed to be the sort of least imposing one that we could come up with.
Great. Are there, I see some X's there, but I believe those trees have all already come down.
That's right.
Okay.
In October last year. So this is over superimposed on the original site plan that you guys would have been aware of and seen 3 years
Okay.
ago.
And is this a asphalt drive or is this gravel?
No, this is gravel. Yeah.
Okay. And there's, so the wall is inset, is towards your house a little bit more from the driveway itself there, from that gravel area?
That's right. I think in engineering terms, Jan would understand this better. There's a certain amount where the cars and weight shouldn't be, that I think there'll be planting and whatever there, that that needs to be several feet before it gets to the edge of the wall. Yeah.
Okay, and then you have stairs coming off of that will then connect over to the current path, I guess? Perfect, okay.
That's right. This is still the slight work in progress. It's a really, as I'm sure you all who walked it, it's a really tricky site, and the slopes are are fairly substantial there. So yeah, this is the latest sort of thinking of how to get down the easiest and least obstructive and cost efficient way. So yeah.
Okay, and those other walls were there before, I believe.
Sorry, so the original, you can actually see where the original wall is still on that plan. Some of the building is just going over the corner of it. That wall, essentially, the idea is to move it back just off the edge of the house. The wall just above it, which is not in a set that you were given just before, is to try and mitigate just sort of the substantial height of that wall. So it was just trying to lessen them by doing two smaller ones.
Okay. Thank you, because that explains a lot here as we look at it. And I think it's helpful to have the old plan, the prior plan there, but it's also
confusing. Yeah.
Leads me to ask a couple extra questions just to make sure I'm getting what
yeah,
is
there's a lot
proposed.
going on there. Yeah. And I should add that there's a buried propane tank that is no longer there. They were just full electric. So, yeah.
So is that going to get replaced, or is that?
It was always proposed and agreed on with an original plan by you guys. We're just not doing it. Yeah, it should have just been X'd. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on this? So I think if we are in agreement with this, what we do is we say we want to have a motion to accept the changes and to have it continue to be administered, administered by Jan administratively. I'm saying that wrong, but I think that's the process. So if we are okay with it, and I'm really grateful to you guys coming in, because I think it's a good I think it's a change, but I think it's one that, you know, having discussed, I'm comfortable seeing go back administratively if other people are as well. So Jerome, I see thumbs up.
I think we need a motion.
A motion,
or just a
yeah.
consensus.
A
All right,
motion,
I'll
yeah.
make the motion to accept the changes and continue the process administratively.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well said. Thank you. And that was seconded by Charlene. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll poll the board. Jerome?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
And I also say yes. So thank you. The motion passes, and we can have this handled administratively. But I think I think this is a good change to have seen and understand. And I thank you for bringing and answering questions for us on it.
Thank you, and nice to see you all again.
I'm looking for a final plan.
Yes, right. Yeah. So
Some design
go ahead and submit the final one. Yeah.
design calcs on the drywall for the added.
Yes. And yeah, and that's for both you and building department, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad to see progress on that too. I'm
It's
sure
slow.
you are.
We learned, don't build during a global pandemic. But yes, getting there.
Good, good. Okay. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is really, again, a discussion for the Wild Oaks Water System Emergency Well. And I am not sure who's on for that. Yes. So this is on Nash Road and Golden's Bridge, New York 10526. It's activities within a wetland, including the drilling of a replacement well and installation of an access road and temporary bridge. So this was an emergency approval, and I think we just want to hear a little bit about what happened and what the next steps are. So I guess, Stacy, if you could introduce yourself and take over and tell us what's going on.
Sure. I'm Stacy Stieber with WSP. I'm working with New York American Water. Rosa Fernandez and Darren Ramon from New York American are on the conference also. We were planning to drill a replacement well on one of the well field parcels at the Wild Oaks Water System. The Westchester County Department of Health has requested that New York American Water explore options to drill supplemental sources at that water system. The water system has two very small well fields and currently operates 2 wells on one of those well field parcels. The health department has requested that we drill other sources away from those wells to avoid interference. New York American owns the second well field parcel that is owned by the treatment plant on Nash Road. So we are exploring the drilling of a supplemental well on that parcel. There is an existing well on the parcel that is no longer in operation. Before New York American acquired the system, that well had lost capacity and was taken out of service. The well is inside a concrete pump house and has a concrete collar around it, which makes it very difficult to do any work on the existing well. So to avoid unnecessary disturbance of having to break down portions of that pump house, we're proposing to drill a replacement well on the exterior of it.
Okay. So as I understand it, you have emergency authorization for the for digging the well, but once you go to it connected or anything, you will have to submit a application and a new plan, assuming that the well is suitable for use and you decide to install it, put it into service.
Understood. This initial step will be to drill it and determine if there's sufficient capacity to pursue it further to connect it. So we understand that any additional plans beyond that would require going to the town.
Great. Okay. Anybody have any questions about this? I did see, that that there were some need to bring truck in water and all that. So I understand that that's a concern, and certainly understand why the emergency approval was granted. So if there are no other questions, I want to, oh, yes, Charlene.
If it doesn't have sufficient capacity, what would be your next step?
New York American is evaluating other alternatives there. They're looking at, they're pursuing other parcels in the area. That's more of a longer term solution to acquire additional lands to drill if this well does not produce sufficient capacity. They're also evaluating another existing well that is on, I'll call it parcel A, which is where the 2 wells that they're currently operating is. There's a third well there that they're reviewing the possibility of reconnecting that well. That well has a manganese issue that they're looking at addressing treatment for. That's also a longer term solution. But those are 2 other options that are on the table right now. This is the quickest option to move forward with immediately if we can find a successful well here to connect to work on connecting it.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Right, thank you. I think this is, again, if we have an emergency authorization, it just behooves us to understand exactly what it's about. So I really appreciate you coming in and telling us this, and we certainly hope it will be suitable to put in service and that you will be back soon for a permit for that. So do you know when you will start to or attempt to drill?
We are waiting for our final permit from the Westchester County Department of Health in order to drill the well. We have reached out to our contact there and are waiting to hear back when that will be issued. We're hoping it will be issued within the next couple of days. We're also addressing, there's a communications cable on the overhead power line that's hanging a little low. So we're working with Comcast Verizon to get that raised so we can safely bring our equipment in.
Yeah, there's always something. Okay, well, thank you and good luck, and we hope to see you soon.
Okay, I appreciate your time.
Okay, and thank you for yours.
Thanks.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is really the town board amending town code 220-16L, which is an outdoor restaurant. It's the outdoor restaurant seating code that was previously passed. And it was, the permission ends on December 31st, 2021 currently. And so this would extend the permission through December 31st, 2022. I don't believe there's any change at all in the language. So I wanted to see if anyone has any questions or items on this. Charlene.
I had some question to it when it was originally proposed, but I am told, and from what I understand, that none of the outdoor dining is on public right-of-way or public property. Therefore, there's no insurance requirements that need be in the law. And hopefully that's true.
Yeah, so I think the question was whether we should have the town as mandated as an added insured if there's any
Exactly.
activity on town or
Right away.
or any kind of other right-of-way property. I think the way that this is written, it says it's for a site plan, which would imply that the activity has to take place on the parcel owned by the
By the operator, right.
Yeah. So I think that's sort of that, to put it out on off of the parcel would require something extra. So I think that's a really good comment, but I think it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
apply.
just.
Okay, so with that, I think
I have a
go ahead, Jerome.
question here. Briefly, I'm looking for a copy of that December, or rather the previous approval, but is there provision in there for restoration? In other words, once this indoor dining condition is relieved, which is why this outdoor dining, and we want the outdoor dining for sure. But is there provision for any remediation of the areas that are affected by the dining? Like if, for example, I noticed in some areas they put concrete blocks to protect the tent or seating area. Will all that? Is there provision in that for restoration of the existing parking? I don't remember. And should there?
No, yeah, no, there's not. And that could be a suggestion offered to the town board.
I mean, once this condition is alleviated,
right?
Hopefully sooner rather than later, restoration should be an issue.
Okay, so that is a good point. Would you think that, I think what we need to do is have a motion to authorize a letter to the town board that would indicate anything that we want. So I think what I'm hearing is generally we agree that this should be extended out through the end of December next year, but we would like it added that at the end of the operation, at the, or at the end of the permitted outside seating, that the site should be restored to the conditions as indicated in the original site plan.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Charlene, any further discussion?
No.
Okay, so I'll poll the board. Jerome,
Yes.
Charlene,
Aye.
and Greg.
Yes.
And I also say yes, so the motion is approved, and I'll work with Kirsten to get that letter off to the town board. I think the next item on our agenda is a short one. We tend to make decisions in our meeting, not away from them. So the discussion is whether we should try to continue with virtual meetings or have in-person meetings. My view is that as long as this emergency provision allows us to meet virtually, I'd like to meet that way, but I just want to make sure that's okay with all of our important participants here, not only board members, but our consultants and of course, Kirsten. So
I think we should move the January 15th meeting up so we could do that virtually too.
Good idea.
what would that take? Well, actually, hold that thought because we
Yeah.
will talk about a calendar at our next meeting.
We're talking about dates next month, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I do want people to look at that because February is sort of a tricky one this year. Usually, quite often we move our meeting from the third week to the fourth week in February, but President's Day and some vacations are a little off this year. So please take a look and see if what will work, and we will need to discuss that. So I don't remember exactly when the January meeting was, but I'm actually hoping that the legislature will meet again and make a more permanent resolution. But yeah, that maybe we should look at moving it before January. Okay, so it sounds like everybody's okay with virtual is how I'm taking this, and I'm just glad we discussed it in public so that we could do that. Okay, the next item on our agenda. So I'm sorry, I should close that out. So we will meet virtually as long as we can, and look at next month. We'll talk about January. Okay, minutes of the August 17th meeting. Jerome.
And will we approve the minutes as transmitted to us?
Okay. Do we have a second?
Greg, come on, second it.
I can't. I wasn't there.
Oh, I second it.
Right. All in favor? Oh, I
Aye.
have to poll. I'm sorry. Jerome,
Yes.
Charlene,
Aye.
Greg?
Abstain.
I have to abstain, and I also say that they're approved, so they're approved. Our next meeting date will be October. Oh, before I say that, there is also a planning board education that Kirsten has shared with us and can get us all to attend free by Zoom. So if I think people have already responded to some extent if they're interested in going. So if you are, just let her know that you're interested in attending some of the Zooms, and we will do that. Okay. So with that, now, next meeting date is October 19th, 2021. And so I'd look for a motion to adjourn unless there's any other business that someone wants to bring up.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Greg.
Second.
Thank you, Jerome. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Jerome?
Aye.
Yes.
Greg, I saw the
Yes.
hand and I heard Charlene, and I also say yes. So thank you. Happy equinox, everyone who is looking
Tomorrow,
forward-
not today.
I know it's still
Yeah.
now, but for all those who are looking forward to fall, happy day.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and we will see you.